To graft is a method of making art from multiple sources, as well as a method of taking art from different areas, places, regions. It's especially interesting to think about arts made in times of war. Looking at the intersection of the Marathas and the British in Western India in the 18th century allows us to look at why and how art was created and disseminated. With grafting as a starting point, we can see more clearly intersections of Indian and British ideas, materials, and techniques.
Edward Moore was a lieutenant in a British East India Company brigade that was embedded in the army of the Marathas, who were powerful rulers in Western India in the 18th century. The British and the Marathas allied in 1790 against their mutual enemy to the south, Tipu Sultan, and Moore marched through Western India in the war that followed. From this vantage point, he became a collector of goods and knowledge about Maratha devotion. He collected more than 360 sculptures and 250 paintings in Western India, many featuring iconic representations of Hindu gods and goddesses. Today, these are held at the British Museum. Some of the sculptures were damaged by age or war, and Moore often tried to mend these. If you look at the bronze of Shiva and Parvati from his collection, it has normal wear from devotees rubbing the bronze, but also an abnormal separation from its base that marks an intervention. Moore added to the bronze himself. He had a brass base cast in the shape of a lotus.
Moore is a fascinating character. He collects hundreds of objects while he is a soldier in Western India, and when he returns with them to London in 1805, he translates them, he adapts them, he interprets them in his major publication, The Hindu Pantheon, which is published a few years after that. He hired the artist Moses Houghton to transform these paintings of Hindu materials and others that he collected into gray-wash drawings of deities relatable to the Greco-Roman pantheon of antiquity. He therefore turned this kind of very specific collection into one that would be legible to a European audience.
Moore's approach to the Hindu gods needs to be understood within its colonial framework. It was part of the production of knowledge about India that company officials used in their efforts to broker economic and military deals and eventually to rule the subcontinent. Moore's book was extraordinary for its time. He not only included over 300 illustrations, but he also chose to show multiple images of each god and goddess in order to demonstrate their many manifestations.
William Blake is another fascinating character in this story, in some ways because he's unexpected. He was a reproductive engraver alongside being the radical poet and printmaker that so many now know and love. Blake was engraving the illustrations for John Flaxman's article on sculpture for Rees's Cyclopedia. And on one of those plates is one of Moore's sculptures from the Hindu pantheon. From the text, as well as the images in his late illuminated manuscript, Jerusalem, we can tell that he in fact read the book quite closely. We see echoes of Moore's prints in Blake's engravings, and his longing in his late manuscript to create a new Jerusalem in Britain, one founded on virtue and free of tyranny and empire. Blake consults Moore's book as a source of mythology to repair Britain. He grafted Hindu philosophy and its imagery with many other sources, such as images connected to Christian revelation. Here, Blake uses graft as a method to draw multiple times, regions, religions, and philosophies together as an act of regeneration. Moore returns to England in 1805, a much wealthier man, it's important to say, and he bought a very large country house in Suffolk, close to the region where he was born. He made a pyramid on his grounds. So it's an Egyptian pyramid in which he embedded Hindu sculptures that he had taken from a temple in Bombay, which of course raises many questions around plunder and heritage that we're dealing with today. And he embeds the Hindu sculpture as well as British millstones as a way, again, of grafting multiple traditions together and showing both their similarities and their differences. Moore lived in India for almost 20 years, and he was changed by it. And so many of the figures that I talk about in the book are like that. They're changed by the circumstances in which they live. And Moore was both physically altered in the sense that he was wounded multiple times. He had bullets still in his body when he returned to England. But he also was changed by the objects that he collected. Someone once said of him that he gave these objects a reverence that was usually the store of other men's worship. And I believe that's true. By collecting these objects, by thinking about them, and also by completely transforming them, they became a part of his own life.